Guys, today I'm going to talk about patterning late season bucks using trail cameras. So I'm going to walk you through exactly how I attack this situation. Now, in the late season, bucks and deer in general become very predictable. It's a lot like early season, but you can narrow down the properties and the areas they're going to be at just because food is so scarce this time of year. Now, let me set my coffee down here, so I'm going to walk you through this right here. So I'm laying this out as you have a property with a good depth of cover here, right? So this is my food source. This is my consistent food source that I'm seeing deer hit routinely. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take cameras. I'm just going to litter the outside edge or any entrance to this food source with cameras. And I'm going to find the exact location that a specific deer is entering there consistently. Now, it could change slightly based on wind direction, and that's another thing that you're gonna have to pay attention to. But once I find, say I've got the buck coming here, right? Once I find that enter location, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna analyze, is that during daylight, is it not? If it's not during daylight, okay, we gotta move back farther. So I'm just gonna keep pushing back farther and farther. Now, this is where scouting plays a huge role. Now, if you don't understand how your property moves and how the deer use your property, you've got to learn that. Assuming that you do, find the best trail or the best buck trail, right? And now we're going to take our cameras here and we're going to start littering those trails moving backwards, right? So say we might have a little Y trail there. Maybe one comes here and goes this way, another split there. Maybe we've got one here. We had one picture of him, and this one splits, connects there, so on and so forth. It's gonna tree branch and it's gonna split out in a lot of different places. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna keep moving back a little bit at a time to try to dial in how that deer is moving on a specific wind and how he's getting to that food source so I can catch him during daylight. What I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna leave that there. I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna put another camera there. I'm gonna try to find a consistent movement that he's doing on a certain wind direction that I can hunt him on. Now, I'm also gonna go to any of these crossings and I'm gonna try to find his consistent habits. Now, when you're talking about wind direction and how that all plays in, that takes time. You've gotta understand that. Say we've got a west wind like so, and he's only coming to this food source on a west wind when he's got it, right? So we're gonna have to pay attention. You might have him there, but can you hunt him on that Y trail with that west wind? Because you've got bedding areas here. So maybe you gotta wait for a quartering wind like a southwest like so, or a northwest. Get on the bottom side of him, clear all those other deer in that bedding area. Make sure you don't get busted and blow things up and blow this whole scenario out of the water here. I'm gonna run through an example here. Say I'm getting him consistently entering on this main trail right there. Say I've got a camera here, there, and I've got him on all three. And he's daylight on that one. So these two, I'm only getting night photos, but this one right on the edge of that bedding area, he's daylight. So that's where I attack. That's where I ambush him, and I try to get in there and get a shot at him, right? So now, how do I hunt this? Wind-wise, right? So he's coming on westerly winds. That's the only winds he's coming on. But you can cheat this a little bit. If you get a southwest wind, he's still got that wind in his favor and he'll still show up. A northwest wind, he'll still do the same thing. If he's got that wind at least a little bit, he'll feel comfortable moving during daylight. So what I'm gonna do here is if I get a southwest wind, keep this in mind, west is straight like this. If I get a southwest coming like so, I can slip in there and I can ambush him right where he's daylighting. Now, your access to this is gonna be a big key too. You're gonna wanna come way around. You don't wanna get in there tight to that bedding and blow other deer out. You've gotta come around, you've gotta get in there, and you've gotta go slow and you gotta be quiet, and you have to not make any mistakes because he's very close here. When you're hunting bedding areas late season, there's a lot of deer in there. They're packed in tight and they're very aware. You're coming in here, you're setting up on him, and your wind is still good. He's getting the wind like this. He feels comfortable. He's getting the wind from this food source. With that southwest, he feels good. He's gonna loop around, and with that southwest, you wanna set up on the downwind side of that trail. You don't want to set up over here, so when he comes in, he's going to get downwind of you. You have to come on that backside, get set up, and stay downwind of him. Now, this is exactly how I would approach a situation like this, and it's exactly how I target late season deer if I find one I want to go after. Now, this whole thing starts by getting the intel on the food source movement. You have to pay attention. This has to be unpressured, but you have to monitor this, and I use cell cams, and contrary to popular belief, you don't have to use a specific brand. I've got some that I like to use, but that does not, I mean, the brand does not matter, right? So anything that works, find what works for you. Now, you have to monitor this as soon as you find that deer doing what you want. Now, like I said, just go back as far as you need to, trail him back with those cameras. And now all this intel, it'll repeat itself year after year as long as there's not drastic changes on that property. Me personally, I don't necessarily have to go through this whole step-by-step process anymore because I understand how deer move and how deer use bedding areas to food source movement. But if you're green to this whole thing, this is how you do it. Step by step, go back, push back 50, 100 yards. Each camera location, push back 50 to 100 yards until you get him daylight. And once you find that, you've got your spot, and you just need the right weather and the right circumstances. Apply this for the upcoming late season hunting, and you'll be successful.